Well, I have a feeling I know, Travis, I'm going to let you run the show here today. This is your show, but I have a feeling I know how you might be starting it, and I'm guessing it's going to be with wins.
Yeah, we'll start it off just like we do every week and see, if anybody's got any wins out there, and get this meeting rolling.
Yeah. Wins, we like to sell them. We like to celebrate them, whether they are large or small. So, Rudy, you're not muted, so your criticisms are received.
I love to celebrate small wins and big wins, and personal wins as well. Those are all accepted here.
Yes.
I'll share a win.
Yes, please, Ken.
This is more personal, but my wife told me she was pregnant yesterday. So I'm really
Oh, come on!
Oh, that is so exciting.
Woo.
Wow. That's not even, I'd like to say that's business as well, because now your business has got to be producing.
Yes. Yes, a little added pressure there, but that's so exciting. Congratulations. You're going to be looking like Laura over here on these calls before we know it with a little one. So that is so exciting. I know that that's a hard one to try to top, but does anybody else have any wins that they'd like to share? Going once.
Yeah, we had a win.
You go ahead.
We got too many. Let's go.
Sorry, I just joined. Rob.
You're
Colorado.
okay.
Yeah, we closed our first deal, $6,000. So we're excited about that.
Hey, love
Come
that.
on, Rob.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. And then Justin.
Yeah. So yesterday I got 3 Google leads all in one day, and I was able to see 2 of them the same day and closed both of them.
Hey, we
Justin,
love that.
Shoot.
Yes.
That's
Congratulations. Yes.
Incredible. Just to highlight, that wasn't a typical occurrence before. That's new. That's incredible.
And
That's
it
what
sounds like
happens when
you've
you
got
get-
a pretty kick-ass sales process too, that you got out there quickly, got them the estimates, closed that deal. That's awesome.
We're working on it.
Anybody else? Where are we?
Yes, we had we broke I guess our record for sales in a month. We did 37K last month. So that was super awesome.
Miguel, congratulations. If you know, what was your average kind of before, or what was a typical month?
The top has been 32, I think 30 something like that. Yeah. Oh, average,
Well,
our average, I guess it's been steadily growing, but we're only a year into the business. We started with 10K a month, and then we had been hitting about 15K a month is probably our average.
yes, well, that is huge growth, steady growth. That's what we want to look for. So congratulations. Cheers to setting records and breaking them, and consistently having new goals. So congratulations. That's huge.
Definitely.
Yes. Okay. Well, I appreciate you guys sharing. It's always nice to be able to hear what's going on with everybody's business and be able to get that little encouragement. But Travis, what are we going to be talking about here today?
Yeah, well, we're going to be covering how to lead team meetings, and even more specifically than that, how to lead a level 10 meeting. So to get started here, let me share my screen. Boom. Okay. Give me just a second here, guys. It's not cooperating with me. Okay. So the first thing that we want to do to lead your team meetings is creating a consistent feedback loop. It's a really important part of any successful business. And when run properly, that consistent feedback loop with your team is just going to create a culture in your business where people are growing. They're continuing to improve. And that's probably one of the absolute biggest benefits that you're going to see from your team meetings as the business owner. And so this is going to be where employees are able to express their concerns, ask questions about anything they might need to know throughout the week. But this will allow you to spend less time with those, got-a-minute meetings that you're probably having more times in a day than you even realize, until you get to the end of your day and go, whoa, where'd my day go? If anybody can relate with that, just kind of hold up your hand, shout it out. And maybe for some of you guys, it's more like your phone is consistently getting blown up from team members needing things. If either one of those feel true to you in your business, the reason that's happening is because there is no other way for them to communicate that with you. And you probably feel like you're answering the same question 5 times over, just to different people. But by routinely having a team meeting at a set time, set place each week with all the members of your team, you're able to receive and provide that feedback in a more structured and organized way. So we have a saying that I hear a lot here at Redmond Growth, and that's a quote from Ken Blanchard that says, "None of us is as smart as all of us." A lot of times, some of the best solutions to problems in your business can be found by guys that are working in the field every day, that are doing the job. There may be a member of your team that even has already found a great solution to the problem that you guys are looking for. And you can implement a new best practice with a method that has already been proven to work for a trusted member of your team. Or it may at least provide the inspiration for the solution.
This happened at Redmond Growth yesterday. We have a team meeting every single week, so it's like we are in communication. We do have systems. We do practice what we preach. But yesterday we were going over our systems document, and a lot of us realized that people had created very helpful things that the rest of us were not aware of, and it's like, oh, wow, that would have been nice to have, or that would have been nice to know. And this is something that Tim Redmond does say all the time, is none of us is as smart as all of us. And it's so true. You got to share the wealth. We get onto Rudy all the time because he's probably the smartest one among us. And he will be like, oh, well, I had this system, or I was doing it this way, or this is how you do that. And it's like, dude, help the rest of us, share the wealth. Having that set meeting is going to be a great opportunity to be able to do that consistently and make sure that everybody is on the same page and has the same success.
Well, when I consistently beat everybody at chess in the office, I'll take that title, but that's not today. Thank you so much.
I may still be looking for my first win there. So he's definitely got me beat on chess. So, but by pulling your team's cumulative experience, their knowledge and their creativity, that's always going to be your shortest path to solving the issues that creep up in your business. It can also provide you more insight into what's really causing the problem. Another big benefit of including your team and finding solutions is them buying into it. Since football season's here, I'm going to use this opportunity to tie in a story that I heard on a podcast just a few weeks ago, and I'll do my best to keep it short. But when Robert Griffin III came into the NFL, his coach let him pick and completely run the install of one of his favorite plays from college. He drew it up on the whiteboard, taught each player their assignment, and they ran it later that day in practice. At the snap, the blocking was a mess. Every receiver ran the wrong route. And despite the chaos, the quarterback made an incredible throw, completed the pass. Next day, his coach let him make adjustments, have another crack at it, installing it with the team. At practice, they ran it again the next day and again the next week. Finally, it ran perfectly. After the practice, the coach asked him, what do you think I made you put that play in for? RG3 said, not sure. I guess because you needed a great play. And Coach Shanahan said, no, I made you put that play in because I knew for a fact that you were going to make that play work because you put it in. Coach Shanahan, he understood that as humans, when we come up with an idea or a solution, we oftentimes become more invested in it. We become emotionally attached to making it work because nobody likes to be wrong, you know? And oftentimes when the solution, or in this instance, the play comes from a peer, you're going to get extra buy-in from the team. So again, just kind of ties that back into none of us is as smart as all of us. Now, to get the most out of your team meetings, we have to make your meetings meaningful. So what does that actually look like? One of the first ways to be able to track your KPIs with your team. After last week's call, we all already know how and why tracking is just so important. But your team meeting is a great time to come together as a team and look at the areas of your business that are really doing well and what areas of the business that may need some improvement. By looking at this on a weekly basis, it really allows for corrections and tweaks in your systems to improve these numbers. You're ensuring that when something starts to slide, you're able to correct course, and a bad week doesn't just snowball into a bad month, a bad quarter, and et cetera. So it allows you to give out public praise to individuals or departments in your company maybe that are doing really well, that are excelling, going above and beyond. And you can also use this time to establish goals and create or even raise the standards in your business based off of those KPIs. Now, the next process that you want to make sure that you're covering in your team meetings are establishing checklists and procedures. This is how you really guarantee a consistent product for your clients, and a key step in creating just a well-oiled machine in your business. I have a client, Victor, with Victor's Granite in Utah. He's not on the call today because he's on vacation currently, but he's super excited because we just created a daily checklist for his install guys that covers all of the tools and materials that they need before they leave the warehouse in the morning, and what he expects the truck to look like and where everything needs to be to end the day so the next day can start smoothly. And he's super excited to get back from his vacation, have his team meeting, and implement this with his crews. It's bringing so much, peace to his business. And we can help you, provide a checklist of all sorts for every type of business, all types of roles to help manage your employees that really can just standardize what you need them to do. So again, this is going to be another way to reduce the numbers of calls that you're getting from your team on a daily basis, just needing to know what to do, when, and how. So this will also help you tremendously when you're training new employees and you're bringing them into the company, and reduce mistakes, reduce the amount of time that it takes for you to get someone trained up and really becoming an asset to your business. And then the next thing is just something that I'm sure everybody here is at least somewhat familiar with, whether you've been with us for a week or 5 years. But that's using an agenda to lead your team meetings. So this allows the whole team to find and put information on it, and what they would need to cover during that week's meeting. Creating a way to communicate the issues and ideas from your team. You're creating a place to document what and when you expect things and from who. So that's you're just all you're doing with the agenda is creating an organized, structured place to communicate with your team, to hold them accountable.
Yes. Accountability. I was waiting for you
brain.
to say that word, because accountability is such a big part of it. Who here has ever like told a team member, hey, I need you to do that? Or had a team member tell you to do something and then you just totally forget to follow up with them? I know that happens sometimes even here. And so having a set agenda where anything that you assign to somebody is getting documented there. Who is doing it? When are they getting it done by? And what are they doing? Having very clear ownership and accountability. This is going to allow you to be a lot more efficient. If you are stuck in the habit of communicating with your office person through voicemails, calls, text message, sticky notes, emails, you're setting them up to miss things. They're going to get missed. And so we have to have a set agenda that is consistently being updated, being looked at, that's really going to allow your team to feel confident that you're handling the things that need to be handled and that they have a set time where they're going to get questions answered. And it's going to show them that they're going to be held accountable to the duties that you are giving them. There's going to be that follow-up loop. And so if you feel like you're in the doom loop of constantly telling somebody to do something and it's not getting done, this might be the missing step.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the reason that it's effective to holding them to the accountability is it creates good, clear expectations with your team. But also it's getting it out of your brain and getting it onto paper. It's documented somewhere. You're not relying on your memory to follow up on these things that you said that you were going to do with your team or to hold them accountable to. So now that we've covered a few things, I'm curious to ask some of you guys that maybe are already holding or currently doing team meetings. How would you rate the effectiveness of them on a scale of 1 to 10? So kind of think about that for a second. If you were to, take a step back and really rate the effectiveness of your team meetings, how would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10? The other viewpoint I want you to have on that is to think of what your employees would rate the effectiveness of your team meetings on a scale of 1 to 10, right?
I'll pass. Well, I just want to say something real quick because we're as of right now, it's me, my wife, my brother might be joining, and that's pretty much it. There's a couple guys that work with us on the field, but yeah, it's a very small team. So I guess just kind of getting that ball started. If you have any thoughts on that.
Most of our clients are around your size. You got to establish those habits early on, because the bigger you get and the busier you get, the harder it's going to be to implement that. If you start it now, you're going to be setting yourself up for success. And even though you're a small team, I'm sure that your team members and potentially your wife would like a set time every single day where they know they're going to have your undivided attention. It's a set time for marching orders, for feedback, for questions. And so I would encourage, even though you're small, right now is the best time for you to start doing these team meetings and having that ongoing accountability.
Yeah, and I would even say that whenever it's small like that, sometimes it can be maybe even more beneficial, because a lot of times when it's small, you just have a ton of trust and you assume that the other person's handling different things. It's really easy to do that. And so having that come together and reviewing things, creating that accountability, and really looking at the most important parts of your business is just going to kind of build those winning habits from the start. So kind of back to what Nicole said.
Even at Redmond Growth, we did team meetings back when it was only me and one other employee. And it was daily meetings. It was about sales and so forth, but we didn't look at this room and say, hey, there's only 3 of us in here, why are we doing this? No, it's just the season. It's the accountability is so important. And just it's great to even get in the habit of running a team meeting, and just doing those things before things to begin to feel like they're getting out of your control. So yeah, start it start it now, always now. Even if it's just you and one other person. Even if it's just yourself, do a team meeting with yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like, but
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that, you would pass if you had to rate your team meetings. Because according to Gino Wickman, who's the author of Traction and the founder of ESO, every business owner they interviewed, they asked them to rate the effectiveness of their team meetings. On average, the business owners rated the effectiveness of their own team meetings a 4 out of 10. So that's a 4 out of 10. If you think about that from the system that we were taught in school, and for some of us sending kids back to school this time of year, the same system we hold our kids accountable to, that isn't even a passing grade. That's 40%. And so why would we let that be acceptable in such an important and key area of our business? What we really want to do is take those meetings from a level 4 and start leading true level 10 meetings. So there's several major benefits from it, but 2 that I quickly want to highlight before diving deeper into it. And one is that it's a really effective time management tool. And 2 is that it's the most effective way to delegate tasks. Again, coming back to that accountability. When you're regularly holding a team meeting and have a routine structure and to follow, to communicate with your team and to actually get things accomplished in your business, you really can't help but start to be more efficient with your time. It's just going to happen. And we'll get into it more in the next slide, but making sure that your team meeting starts on time and ends on time are a big factor when leading a level 10 meeting as well. Again, starts on time, ends on time. And then, the next big factor is assigning who needs to do what and by when. So clearly defining who does what by when. So so this next slide starts off with a really great quote. We are what we repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence is not an act, but a habit. That's typically attributed to Aristotle. Buzz, as it turns out, and as I recently learned, that's not correct. It was not Aristotle. His quote was, "Virtues are formed in man by his doing the actions." The writer Will Durant interpreted it into normal, human being speak that we could all understand, and that's where we get, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act, but a habit. That's been one of my favorite quotes for a really long time, and so it's kind of mind blown for me whenever I realized that was not an Aristotle quote. So, anyways, now that I got Will Durant his well-deserved credit, I'll move on here. So I've got 5 rules for a level 10 meeting, and a lot of them are directly related to that quote. So the first one is that a level 10 meeting needs to be the same day each week. What day you choose is by far less important than making sure that it's consistent. Whatever makes the most sense for you and your business, whatever makes the most sense for your team's schedule, pick that day. Second, it needs to be at the same time on the same day each week.
Before you go on same time and same day, I wanted to say how important that was. I've had so many, I've had instances where somebody says, well, we'll try it on Wednesday, and if it doesn't work on Wednesday, we'll do it on Thursday, or we'll do maybe Tuesday this week, but not sure when is the best time yet. And every time someone has that approach, I noticed it's very inconsistent. The meeting is very spotty, and it doesn't happen. The people who have had the best success with actually getting these meetings done is always at a certain time on a certain day. I'll let you have the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's exactly it. Again, we are what we can repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act, but it's creating that habit, creating that routine. So same time, same day, and you're just wanting to create a rhythm within your business. Your employees know what to expect. You can eliminate a lot of the I forgot to show up, or whatever shenanigans or excuses you might run into when it's one week it's on Thursday at 3 o'clock, the next week it's on Monday at 8, and so on. There's no reasonable reason to forget when it's the same day and same time each week, right? You know, it also eliminates you from exactly what you were saying, from not being able to find time for it in your schedule. We all know that's kind of a myth, finding time. It doesn't happen. You have to make time for things like this. And so the third thing is you want to use the same agenda for each meeting. You know, you don't want to create a document one week and then, oh gosh, I can't find it. You create another one and it's this never-ending cycle. With level 10 meetings, things go onto the agenda as you identify problems, you know, burning fires. Action items will be created for members of your team to complete, and then things will come off of the agenda when action items are complete. So using that same agenda and reviewing the previous week's action items each week is just going to create that consistent accountability that you need in your business to grow, and how you can, you know, properly and easily manage delegating those tasks. I know that can be a really hard thing for a lot of entrepreneurs, is letting go and giving, you know, those tasks to other members of the team, because it's scary. Is it going to get done by the time that I need it to get done? Well, with this agenda, you're really putting safeguards on those things, right? You're clearly communicating what needs to be done by when and what your expectation is. Last 2 points we touched on a little bit in the last slide, but again, starts on time, ends on time. Really important, you know, making sure that you have that structure, that it's not something that, you know, just expands into this 2-3 hour meeting that takes up, you know, a huge chunk of your week. Because when that happens, you're going to stop prioritizing it. You're going to start seeing it as a waste of time. You're not going to get the benefit of it increasing your efficiency. You know, try and get everything done in the amount of time that you allow for it. So quick recap, but same day, same time, same agenda. Starts on time, ends on time. Pretty simple rules, but a level 10 meeting has to have those 5 things. And it's all about creating a consistent, predictable feedback loop with your team. So one of my favorite quotes, it's applicable in a broad range of topics, really, but I really like it in this context. Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. I really like this quote because it highlights the importance of starting. It highlights the importance of consistency and the importance of working together just as a team. So I again want to touch on creating a consistent feedback loop and kind of what that means. If your phone is constantly being blown up by members of your team needing to address issues in the business, it's, again, because they have no other way of communicating that with you. So use your team meetings to create that consistent and predictable feedback loop where they know that they have a time to address issues and concerns with you every single week on the same day and the same time. When they do call you with something that could have been handled during the team meeting, especially early on, train them in the actions you want them to take. Say, hey, is this something that we can address in the team meeting on Monday? Or is this something that needs to be addressed right now? You know, or you can say, great question. Can you add that to the agenda so that we can cover on Monday? I would really like to actually cover that with the whole team. So after a while, they're going to begin asking themselves these questions before calling you, right? So that's going to eliminate some of those time-wasting phone calls you're taking throughout the day.
This is something that's a little bit hard. And I especially think it's hard for entrepreneurs because you are so used to, you see it, you solve it, you do it. You built this company essentially by yourself. You're probably the #1 employee, business owner, you know, in the company for a long time. And so when somebody comes to you with a question or needing help, your knee-jerk reaction is to just take care of it right then and there. Answer that question right then and there. But one thing that Robert Redmond told me, and it really resonated with me, is that sometimes helping somebody is the worst thing that you can do for them because you're not empowering them. And so if you're annoyed, you can't complain about what you tolerate. And so if you're annoyed that people are calling you constantly, or you're constantly having to remind them of something, or you're constantly being interrupted, but you're not having a daily meeting with your team, you're not having a huddle, you're not having a central place for that communication, then you can't complain about it because you're tolerating it. You're not giving them the tools that they need to succeed. And so having these checklists, like we talked about earlier, having these team meetings, that's what's going to empower them to be able to handle stuff on their own. And I tend to be a very impulsive person. I tend to also not like to procrastinate at all. If I have an issue, I want to like solve it immediately. And so Robert Redmond had to kind of have a come to Jesus meeting with me at one point where he was like, Nicole, if we solve this right now, or if we solved it in our team meeting tomorrow, what would be the difference? There isn't one. It wouldn't matter. Whether we solve it right now or we solve it then, nothing's going to change. It's fine. And so I really encourage the stubborn team about honoring this time, bringing their questions there. And again, you can't complain about what you tolerate. If you want to minimize the amount of calls and stupid questions that you have, let's get a team meeting. Let's start building out some checklists. Let's really empower our team.
Yeah, those are great points, and she's right. It can be difficult to tell people, to put off answering their question to a team meeting the next day or in a few days. But that's really how you start to free up some of your time and get your business to where it's operating and depending on a set of systems instead of just entirely dependent on you. So
I have a question on this. I don't know if this would be better for breakout room. But a lot of our businesses, a lot of our questions are trade and craft questions between, kind of the project manager and the crews. And you can't really have those. I mean, sometimes you can, but like, you know what I'm saying? It's hard to have those specific questions in a team meeting. Can you guys speak to that?
There's always going to be part of that, Justin, where like it's something that if I don't answer this question right now, work's going to be delayed or work is going to be stopped entirely. Like they have to know this in order to be able to move forward. There's always going to be an aspect of that. Eventually, we would love it to establish a project manager, when you get to that size where you can have one where they get to deal with all of that crap. And it only gets to you if it's like an emergency, like somebody fell off a roof emergency, and the project manager handles all of that. What I would challenge you with though, Justin, is if there are reoccurring questions, if it's questions about where to start, or if it's like the same questions every day, let's build a checklist around it. Frequently asked questions. What's the stupid stuff that you constantly get asked? It's like, guys, we've been over this. We know how this works. Or, hey, if I had a checklist on how to start the job and how to finish the job, maybe they wouldn't be calling me constantly wanting to know what's happening next. Or maybe if I had a team meeting every morning where I laid out the entire day for them, and gave it tangibly to them of what to do next, maybe that would be minimized. And so there is going to be an aspect of that, especially when you're small and you're like the point person. But I would challenge yourself to try to use that as an opportunity to build out some checklists or have a daily huddle. What can I do to try to minimize that? Even though I am going to be the guy when something happens, they're going to be calling me.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Nicole. I'll add in some 2 cents as well. If it is small, you want to be able to address that to the whole team because they all benefit from being able to learn that. And you don't have to say it 6 times over. You said it once in the team meeting, so you're squared. Plus, you can turn this into, I agree with the checklist for sure, but also there's much to be said about ongoing development of your team. If you have a regular team training time as well, maybe the team meeting functions as that. You build that into the schedule where part of the time spent is meant to be on scrappy skills. What do we need to know, can we put together some scrap pieces and show somebody, do a little demonstration if you build in time for it. But treat it like you do every other burning fire, right? The method in Gino Wickman's traction is that burning fires come up, you put it at the top of the agenda, you cover what you were supposed to cover, all the things you intended to cover with that meeting. And then if there's time at the end, you can circle back around to it, right? You bring it back down. So I would do the same thing with those technical questions that are more involved than something you can answer quickly that would benefit the whole team. Give it more space, give it more time by treating it that way.
Yeah, I'm gonna add in 4 cents here, so it's twice as valuable as Bryce's. It's and obviously there's going to be things that you have to address right then and there. I think what's so important is not getting so used to answering the urgent burning fire questions that we answer all non-urgent burning fire questions just because we're so used to it. And let's start questioning those. Let's start asking ourselves, someone says, hey, Justin, I have a question. Even before they ask the questions, just ask them, hey, do you think this could be handled right now, or needs to be handled right now, or could it be handled tomorrow and everything's going to be okay? And they may say, Justin, what's gotten into you? Did you not get your coffee or something? And say, just answer the question. No, okay, you don't need, you can get rid of the second half of that conversation, but you can probably have that, that's the kind of thinking you want throughout this process for sure, especially as you keep it at top of mind.
There was a time at Redmond Growth. I've been here for about 5 years. Rudy's been there for about 6 months longer than me. And we were little babies, and it was a small organization, and we didn't have a lot of systems. And so our default was constantly going to Tim and Robert during our meetings and asking questions. And finally, Tim kind of put his foot down, and anytime I would ask him a question, his response would be, what would you suggest? How would you handle that? What are you proposing? And I would get so irritated so quickly because it's like, no, just tell me what you need to do. He's like, Nicole, that would not be helping you. Like, how am I ever going to be able to step out of this company or take a vacation if you aren't capable of answering questions for yourself, or at least presenting a solution and then getting approval? And that's a 30-second conversation compared to a 5-minute one. And so just truly empower your team. One of the worst things you can do for somebody is help them. Let's empower them instead.
Yeah, that's put perfectly. So
let's all say empower on 3. 1. I'm just kidding. Sorry.
But yeah, so you're not just, not answering any question or any phone call that ever comes in. What you're doing is you're almost kind of trying to put a filter on it that trains your team to actually use this tool that you're building into the business to allow for this type of communication. But, really truly urgent, important things that the outcome's gonna change or be different if you don't take care of it right then, still address those. But those other things, you want to start funneling those towards your team meeting, if that makes sense. So
I can truly attest to what Nicole was speaking on, because I did have a foreman who would come to me a lot of times with that, man. It became more and more questions of different things because I was constantly spoon feeding him the answers.
Yeah.
When Tim was doing that to Nicole, that was perfect. I wish I had did that then.
Yeah.
Learning opportunity.
Oh God, I wish I had did that then.
Next time.
Yeah. Well, the next thing that we need to do in our team meetings is, assigning specific action items. It's easy to put something on the board that's just kind of vague or general, but really specific action items. Another thing that I've heard, mentioned around here a lot is just everyone's responsibility is nobody's responsibility. Simply meaning, if we ask broadly or ask everybody to take care of an action item, we're all going to assume that somebody else is taking care of it. So again, clearly assign who is responsible for the action item's completion. Make sure that the action item is very clear with who owns the action item, what they are needing to get done, and when that's expected to be done by. And lastly, here we have, clear setting and communication of expectations to your team. Make sure that your employees understand what is expected of them. You know, it's really easy and common to think, you know, hey, the other day when Steve was late and I told him to be early going forward, and in your mind you set the expectation that Steve should be here at least 5 minutes early, only for Steve to continue showing up right as the day gets started, or maybe even a minute or two early. But does he actually know that what you're wanting is for him to be arriving at the job site 5 minutes early, you know, 5 minutes before start time? Does he know that that is the standard that you're holding him to moving forward? You know, the answer easily could be that he thinks that you just made that comment in passing, out of frustration and didn't really mean it, or that you weren't really going to hold him accountable to that. You weren't going to follow up with him on that. And it could be anything. Maybe it's your sales guys or one of your techs having neat, clean appearance when showing up to a job. You know, address the issue with a clear, calm, level head. Clearly state what's expected of the individual, and then maybe even add it to the burning fires and bring it up in that team meeting and say, hey guys, quick housekeeping notes here. We typically don't have too many problems with it, but just seen it creep up a few times recently. Just want to make sure everybody that understands all technicians are required to show up with a neat, clean appearance with your shirt tucked in. That's really going to help us make a great first impression with our customers. And it's one of the many reasons why we're the best team in town. So using your team meeting to be proactive about setting these expectations and not just always reactive, you know, taking care of it before it becomes an issue. So last few things here, I'll make it quick so we can get into some breakout rooms. But if you want to start holding meetings but aren't sure what the steps are, one is to create or use an agenda that your coach creates for you. If you want to make your own thing, that's great. But if you'd rather, you know, have your coach take some of that work out of it for you, we can do that for you. The biggest thing is having an agenda that you use for each meeting. Second is to schedule your first team meeting and to make it a reoccurring event. Okay, so again, that consistency. Whenever you have your first team meeting, set it on at a time and day that is going to be reoccurring. It's not always changing. Remember that consistency is probably the most important factor in making these meetings a success for your team. Third is get all of your team members to attend. Now, if that's not possible, it's, you know, not realistic for whatever reason, use Zoom or Google Meets if you have to. Ideally, the team meeting is an in-person meeting, but don't let that be the reason that you don't start having them. If that's a barrier to you holding a team meeting, just make it work. Get them on Google Meets, get them on Zoom. And then lastly, we kind of covered it. Somebody had the question on it. But no matter the size of your company, you can and should start holding these level 10 meetings for a lot of the reasons that we mentioned before. Even if it's, like Rudy said, just you in the office, you know, setting aside that time to look at your numbers, come up with items that, you know, if done this week are going to progress the business, and find solutions. And holding yourself accountable. Just seeing your name with a date and an action item is going to provide that accountability for yourself as well. And again, if it's just you in the business or just you and one other person, that's not going to be the case forever. So let's go ahead and start building those winning habits now, and, you know, learn how to lead a level 10 meeting while your team's still small, instead of all of a sudden you've got a room of 50 people with eyes on you, you know. So that's all that I've got for today. So Bryce will take it from here and break up this party and go into breakout rooms.
That's right. All right.